I don't even know where to start with this one, but I'll try. I think part of me is posting because I want someone, anyone, to tell me I'm not crazy. Or maybe I just need to get this all out before I implode. So I've been married for 6 years to my wife, Amy. We met back in college, at a time when I was still trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life. I didn't have much. No family money, no connections. I was the project boyfriend, I guess. Amy came from a well-off family. Her dad's an orthopedic surgeon. Her mom's a yoga and mineral water influencer or something, and I always felt like I was auditioning for a role I wasn't born to play. But Amy said she loved my drive. She said she believed in me, and I believed her. Flash forward to now. I run a pretty successful leather goods company, custom high-end bags and accessories, all made by hand in a little workshop I built with savings and stubbornness. It started with me making one leather satchel in a shared garage. I had watched a documentary on Louis Vuitton once, how he was basically a homeless 13-year-old kid walking for days to get to Paris, living off scraps, learning trunk making as an apprentice, and eventually building an empire. That story stuck with me like a nail in the heart. So yeah, the dream began there. And now, we're doing well. Or so I thought. The first sign that something was off happened last month, when Amy accidentally spilled wine on one of my limited edition messenger bags. I'd made it for a Japanese fashion editor. Thing was worth $4,000 and already had a waitlist. She said she was trying to move it off the kitchen table and tripped. But here's the thing. I put that bag in my office, on the top shelf. When I brought it up, she got all defensive, like, why are you accusing me of stuff? And it's just a stupid bag. But to me, it was more than a bag. It was time, craft, a dream. It was the kind of item I used to make while she laughed at me for wasting time on Etsy. That's when the knot started forming in my stomach. You know the one. That twisty, low-burning gut feeling that something isn't right. But I told myself, it's just a bag. People make mistakes. She's stressed. I'm stressed. Let it go. I wish I hadn't. All right. So after the wine incident, things got weirder. I'm not the snooping type. I'm really not. I hate that feeling of digging through someone's stuff like a paranoid creep. But after that whole "I spilled wine on your bag" mess, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was going on. I told myself I was being dramatic. Maybe she really had made a mistake. Maybe it wasn't a lie. Until I saw it. One night, I was scrolling through Instagram, checking tags for our brand name. I like to see how people are using the bags, get inspiration, see what customers are saying. That's when I stumbled on a boutique account, all clean aesthetic and rose gold filters, called it Urban Goddess Luxury. I didn't recognize the name, but there it was. My bag. The exact same one. Same stitching, same slight crease in the corner from where I'd tested a fold method. Except it wasn't being modeled by a fashion editor from Japan. It was being held by some girl in LA, tagged with. Huge thanks to @Amy_wellness_queen for the gorgeous bag gift. Absolutely obsessed. My fave vegan mama strikes again, Faye blowing kiss, #blessed, #luxury gift. I stared at it. I must have blinked 40 times, thinking maybe I was imagining things. Amy had said she ruined that bag. Spilled wine on it. It was a stupid bag, not worth arguing over. So why was it pristine, and in the hands of her friend from her old yoga group? I checked the timestamp. Posted 2 days after she said she accidentally spilled on it. I clicked through the girl's page and found more. Scarves. A belt. One of my wallets. All handmade, all gifted, all tagged with Amy's account. I felt like I'd been kicked in the chest by a steel boot. It was like watching someone casually give away parts of your body to strangers. I confronted her that night. She was doing her usual thing, wine, bathrobe, complaining about someone's engagement photos being thirsty, and I walked in and just put my phone down on the counter. You gave away the bag, I said. You didn't spill wine on it. You gave it away and lied. She didn't even flinch. Just tilted her head like she was annoyed I had brought it up. Oh my God, she said, rolling her eyes. You're seriously going to obsess over that? I gave it to a friend. She has 30K followers. It's called networking, babe. I didn't even know how to respond. I'm not against gifting items for PR, but that wasn't the plan. And she never asked. She just took it. Lied about ruining it to cover her tracks. She walked away mid-conversation like I was boring her. That's when I knew. This wasn't about the bag. This was about something much bigger. So yeah, I brought it up. I had to. I sat down across from her at the kitchen island while she scrolled on her phone, probably judging someone's brunch photos. I said, Amy, You lied to me about the bag. That wasn't some accident. You gave it away. Why? She didn't even put the phone down. Just gave me this bored look, like I was interrupting her from something way more important. Babe, seriously, you're making a big deal out of nothing. I told you, it was a gift. She's an influencer. Exposure is literally good for your business. I tried to keep my cool. I really did. You lied, though. You said you spilled wine on it. You let me think it was ruined. Amy finally set her phone down. Sighed like I was the difficult one. Because I knew you'd do this exact thing. Flip out over something minor. You always overreact. It's exhausting. There it was. The gaslighting. The redirection. That subtle, sharp-edged way she flips everything around, and suddenly I'm the one being unreasonable. Not the person who gave away a one-of-a-kind custom item from the company I built from scratch. I asked her flat out, "How many pieces have you given away behind my back?" She waved her hand dismissively. "A few. It's not like I sold them or anything. Except I hadn't even thought of that until she said it." "Sold them?" she added, like it was no big deal. "And besides, it's not like you pay me for anything. I help you with branding. I handle emails when you're too tired. I make you look legit. What's a few bags compared to that?" I swear I felt something crack inside me right then. Like a little support beam in the structure of our marriage just gave out. Because yeah, she did help me in the early days, answering emails, giving feedback. But that was years ago. Lately, she hadn't been involved in anything. She hadn't stepped foot in the workshop in over a year. This was control. Entitlement. And she saw my work. Something I built from nothing. Inspired by the story of a homeless kid who carried wood scraps in his coat as hers to distribute like party favors. That night, I barely slept. I stayed up in the workshop until 3 a.m., just running my hands over the leather, remembering how I used to save up for weeks just to buy enough raw hide to make one damn wallet. And she was giving it away like freebies in a swag bag. I felt used. Worse, I felt stupid. And I knew. This was just the tip of the iceberg. All right, buckle up, because this is where the bottom really falls out. After that night, something just kept buzzing in the back of my mind. You know that feeling where you know there's more? Like your gut already figured it out, but your brain is dragging its feet because it doesn't want the truth? That was me. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her iPad. Before anyone jumps down my throat, I know it's a violation of trust. But I needed answers. I was starting to feel like a guest in my own life, in my own business. I just had to know. The iPad was synced to her email. She had a folder labeled Biz Collabs. Sounded innocent enough. Except inside, there were over 24 email chains with names I didn't recognize. Boutiques. Stylists. A celebrity assistant. One message said, "Love the wallet and belt combo. Thanks again. Your pricing is super reasonable. Can't believe you're selling these for under market." That sentence punched me right in the throat. Amy was selling my stuff. And not just selling it, undercutting my actual prices and pocketing the money. She wasn't just giving things away for networking. She was making deals behind my back. She was running a shadow business under my nose. I dug deeper. Venmo records. Private PayPal account. A whole alternate Instagram account she'd made at Wild Soul Leather that used my photos, edited with new filters, new names. No credit to me. No links to my brand. I just sat there on the floor of our office, iPad in my lap, feeling like someone had pulled my ribs out one by one. I wanted to puke. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. This wasn't just lying. This was theft. I remembered watching that Louis Vuitton documentary years ago. How he walked 292 miles to Paris when he was 13. Slept under bridges. Ate scraps. How he apprenticed for years to learn every detail of his craft. That kid made something from nothing. That story made me believe in something. And now here I was, watching the person I trusted most sell off the pieces of that dream behind my back for quick cash. I didn't confront her yet. I needed to sit with it. I needed to decide if I was going to burn the whole damn house down. 3 days. That's how long I sat on it. 3 days of pretending things were fine while I barely ate, barely slept, and tried to keep from screaming every time she walked into a room. I felt like I was sharing oxygen with a stranger. A liar. A thief. On day 3, I walked into our kitchen with a folder I'd printed out, screenshots of her emails, payment confirmations, photos of the fake Instagram account. She was making her gut health smoothie, almond milk, chia, frozen banana, and her favorite lie, nothing but clean energy. I dropped the folder on the island. "What's this?" she asked, not even looking at me. "Proof." of what you've been doing behind my back." She opened it. I watched her eyes flick through each page, barely a twitch in her expression. No shame. No fear. Just boredom. She sighed. "Okay, first of all, wow. Did you actually go through my email? That's controlling and honestly kinda pathetic." "Don't," I said. "Don't even try to spin this. You stole from me, Amy. You took my designs, my work, and sold them for your own profit. You lied, repeatedly. Then she turned it into performance art." "Wow, okay, so I'm the villain now? After everything I've done to support you? When you were some nobody making bags in our garage, who paid for our groceries, huh? Who gave you ideas for your stupid minimalist logo?" I swear, she actually pointed to my logo on a sample bag, like she personally carved it into stone. Then she said the sentence that actually made my ears ring. "You should be thanking me. Without me, nobody would even know who you are." My hands were shaking. Not from rage, not even anymore. Just disbelief. The sheer delusion of it. The ego. The way she twisted it so cleanly in her own mind. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even embarrassed. She thought she was entitled to it. Like she was the genius behind my work. Not the guy who taught himself stitching from YouTube, who spent nights experimenting with grain and edge paint, who once cried in a fabric store because he finally found the right rivets. There was no coming back from that. I knew in that moment. This marriage was a performance, and I just pulled the curtain down. I left 2 days later. Not because I was scared. Not even because I needed more time. I just needed to do it right. I needed to protect my business, my name, and whatever dignity I had left. During those 2 days, I backed up everything: design files, customer emails, accounting records. I locked down my business bank account, changed the passwords, and pulled access from the shared Dropbox. I filed paperwork to remove her name from the LLC. Quietly, cleanly, without a dramatic announcement. I stayed in the guest room and didn't speak more than a few words to her. She didn't ask questions. I think she assumed I was sulking and would come to my senses, like always. But on Friday morning, I packed a duffel bag, grabbed my leather toolkit, and walked out. She came outside barefoot, arms crossed, smirking. "Where are you going?" "Off to make sad little man purses and feel sorry for yourself." I ignored her. Got in my truck. Then she said it. "You're going to regret this. No one else would have tolerated you for this long." It was like she threw a bucket of ice water at me. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about misunderstanding. It wasn't even about the money or the bags. It was about control. About her tolerating me. Like I was a burden she carried, not a partner she loved. I drove to an Airbnb about 45 minutes out of town. Just a little cabin near a lake. No Wi-Fi. Spotty cell service. Nothing but trees and silence. And in that silence, I cried. For the first time in years. Not loud. Not messy. Just steady, bitter tears that fell onto my sketchbook as I stared at a blank page. I thought about that 13-year-old Louis Vuitton kid again. Dirty, homeless, carrying his tools on foot across France to find a job. Nobody to rescue him. Just his own stubborn heart. I didn't feel like a successful man. I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. But I also felt free. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I had room to dream again. So there I was, 1 week into my new life. Living in a cabin with no Wi-Fi, a stack of leather hides in the corner, and my sketchbook half filled with designs I finally had the mental space to create. I was starting to feel something I hadn't felt in forever. Peace. Until I drove into town to get groceries and my phone lit up with 4 missed calls from Amy. And 1 text. Just 1 sentence. "We should talk about what you owe me." I remember standing in the parking lot of the Piggly Wiggly, staring at those words like they were a punchline to a joke I didn't understand. What I owe her? She stole from me, lied to me, disrespected the business I built from scratch. And now she wanted to settle some imaginary debt? I didn't respond. Not right away. I needed time to process what this even meant. Then I got an email. Subject line, legal rights inquiry. It was from an attorney. Amy was claiming she had equity in my business. That her contributions of time and creative direction meant she was entitled to half of the brand, plus a cut of all future earnings. Let me be clear, her creative direction amounted to telling me that navy blue wasn't sexy and asking if I could make a more feminine tool belt. But now she was lawyering up. I forwarded the email to a friend of mine who's a lawyer in Austin. He read it and just replied, "Get your documentation tight and stay calm. She's going for the jugular." That was the moment I realized this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She wasn't just toxic. She was dangerous. She saw my success as hers, and now she was trying to extract value like some kind of parasite that thought it built the body it was feeding on. And the kicker? She was still posting on her fake, Wild Soul Leather account like nothing had changed. Even used one of my new designs from a sneak peek I'd shared with a supplier. I didn't just feel angry. I felt violated. But I wasn't going to roll over. If she wanted a war, she'd picked the wrong ex-homeless bagmaker to mess with. Once she lawyered up, I knew I had two options. Try to settle quietly and pay her off, which my pride hated. Fight like hell to prove what was mine. I chose war. I gathered everything. Photos of my original sketches, complete with timestamps. Email receipts from the leather supplier, my accounts. Records of payments made under my business license, taxes I filed alone, LLC paperwork she never signed. Screenshots from Instagram DMs where I personally negotiated custom orders. Even voice memos I'd recorded months back, brainstorming brand names alone while driving. I wanted the court to see who actually built this thing. She showed up in court with manicured sympathy, fake crying in her Zara blazer, and claimed she'd been silenced and financially controlled. That I had used her labor without compensation. Her lawyer tried to paint me as some obsessive garage craftsman who isolated her and hid revenue. But then my lawyer dropped the bomb. We subpoenaed her PayPal, every shady transaction, every bag she sold without reporting. The Wild Soul Leather account traced directly to her name. Orders that matched my original product descriptions down to the thread color. The judge raised his eyebrows when he saw one of her messages saying, "Don't mention this to Louis. He gets weird about credit and ownership. No further questions, Your Honor." We didn't just win. We crushed. She was ordered to cease all sales immediately, shut down the account, and pay restitution for damages plus court fees. She glared at me the whole time. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just pure, bitter entitlement oozing out of her like venom. And I sat there calm, collected, because I had nothing to hide. But I won't lie. When we walked out of that courthouse, I sat in my truck and laughed. That kind of laugh that's half exhausted relief, half holy hell did I just survive that. Then I drove straight to a fabric store I loved, picked out a new hide of burnt tan leather, the good kind, and stitched the first new bag under my own name again. A quiet celebration. A survivor's trophy. So, after the courtroom drama settled, I was trying to get back to what I loved. Making leather goods, dreaming big, and rebuilding from scratch. But here's where things took a wild turn. A week after the trial, I posted a long, honest story on Instagram. Just me, no filters, no fancy editing, talking about my journey, how the brand started in a tiny garage, the betrayal, and the fight to keep my dream alive. I called it How a Homeless Boy Created Louis Vuitton. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a few likes from friends or supportive messages. But man, the internet blew it up. Within days, my post went viral. Thousands of shares, comments, messages pouring in. People loved the underdog story, the kid who'd walked miles with nothing, who learned stitching by himself, who fought to keep his dream despite everything. And the best part? People sided with me. They called out the betrayal, celebrated the hustle, and even placed orders to support the real brand. I got messages from strangers who said things like, "This story gave me hope. You're an inspiration. I'm buying my first bag from you." Brands started reaching out for collabs. Influencers reposted the story. It was surreal. Even some media outlets picked it up, calling it the comeback story of the year. But here's the kicker, Amy. Crickets. No rebuttals, no public statements. I guess even she knew the internet wouldn't buy her version. This whole crazy, messy, painful experience taught me something huge. Sometimes, the truth does come out. Sometimes, the grind and integrity pay off in ways you don't expect. And sometimes, the people who really matter stick around, not for the show, but because they believe in you. So, after the viral post took off and the orders started pouring in, I was still riding the emotional roller coaster of the past few months. Then one morning, I woke up to an email that hit me harder than anything else. This was no business message, no fan mail. It was from a woman named Sarah. She said her daughter was 16, struggling with homelessness and mental health issues. The girl had been living on the streets for months, feeling hopeless, invisible. Then Sarah found my story online and showed it to her daughter. Her words. "Your story gave her hope. She saw that someone who started with nothing could build something real and meaningful." It made her believe she could have a future too. She said her daughter reached out to a local shelter, started therapy, and even applied for a part-time job at a leather goods shop. I didn't expect that. Never in a million years. I sat at my kitchen table, tears blurring my vision, realizing how far this journey had gone beyond me. The homeless kid in the story, the kid I was still alive inside me, was making an impact. For a moment, all the betrayal, the pain, the fight faded. It wasn't about Amy anymore, or the lawsuit, or the bags. It was about hope. And maybe, just maybe, that's what really builds a brand, a story people believe in, a heart that won't quit. That email changed everything for me. It reminded me why I started, and why I'll keep going. About 3 months after the courtroom victory and the viral post, I got a message from Amy. At first, I thought it was a joke or some kind of prank. She wrote, "Can we talk? I want to make things right." I stared at that text for a good 5 minutes, heart racing but not in a good way. Part of me wanted to slam the phone shut. The other part was too curious. What could she possibly want now? We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, the same place we used to go early in the mornings before all the drama. Amy looked different. Her makeup was lighter, her eyes tired but genuine, if a bit desperate. She started crying almost immediately. Classic Amy, always the emotional bombshell. I was wrong. I lied about everything. I got scared and selfish. I see now how much I hurt you. And I want to fix this. I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. After all the betrayal, the lies, the lawsuit, it was surreal. But here's the thing, my heart didn't soften. Not fully. I told her, "You lost me a long time ago. Fixing things doesn't undo the damage." She nodded, wiping tears. "I get it. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I had to say it. I'm sorry." And that was it. No dramatic reconciliation. No grand promises. Just a quiet, painful truth. Sometimes the person who hurt you the most tries to come back, but you have to protect yourself first. I left that coffee shop feeling more at peace than I expected, because I realized I didn't need her apology to heal. After that coffee shop meeting with Amy, I spent a lot of nights wrestling with my feelings. Anger? Sure, it was still there, burning and raw. But underneath it all was something else, exhaustion. I was tired of carrying the weight of her lies, her betrayals, the endless drama. One night, I sat down with my journal and wrote out everything, every hurt, every resentment, every what if. Then I wrote a letter to Amy. Not to send, just for me. I told her exactly how I felt, what she took from me, and what I wanted to leave behind. The surprising thing? Writing it made me feel lighter. Not because I forgave her right away, but because I was finally ready to stop letting her control my emotions. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about excusing what she did. It was about freeing me from being her prisoner. I also learned to forgive myself. For trusting too much, for hoping she'd be different, for believing her lies. That peace allowed me to focus fully on the brand, the boy who was once homeless, who built Louis Vuitton with his own hands, his own dreams. Now, when people ask me about Amy, I'm honest but calm. She was a chapter, a hard lesson. But she doesn't define me. I'm proud of how far I've come, the scars I carry, and the future I'm still building. Because in the end, the greatest luxury isn't a designer bag, it's the freedom to live your truth. After everything, the betrayal, the courtroom, the viral post, and Amy's half-hearted apology, I had to take a hard look at what trust and love really meant to me. First, trust isn't blind. It's earned every day, through actions, not just words. Amy taught me that the people you love can sometimes hurt you the worst, not because they want to, but because they're broken themselves or selfish. I learned to listen to my gut more and to set clear boundaries. Love, I realized, isn't about sacrificing yourself or accepting lies. It's about respect and honesty, even when it's hard. The kind of love that lifts you up, not drags you down into a pit of doubt and pain. And here's the kicker. Sometimes, love means walking away. I used to think ending my marriage was failure. Now I know it was strength. It was choosing me, my dreams, and my sanity over toxic promises and empty words. So if you're reading this and you're stuck in a relationship where trust is broken, where love feels one-sided or dishonest, know this. You deserve better. You deserve respect, truth, and partnership. Don't be afraid to fight for your worth or to let go when it's clear the other person won't meet you halfway. Because the greatest love story is the one you build with yourself. After the dust settled, I faced a choice, sink into bitterness or rebuild everything from scratch. Guess which one I picked? It wasn't easy. Without Amy's involvement, finally free from her lies, I had to learn how to run the whole operation solo. From marketing and sales to product design and customer service, I wore every hat. Sleepless nights, frustrating mistakes, and moments of doubt were constant companions. But here's the thing. Every bag I crafted felt like a victory. Each stitch was a small rebellion against the past. I poured my soul into the work, remembering that homeless kid who once dreamed big but had nothing. Slowly, the brand grew, not just because of the viral story, but because the products spoke for themselves. Quality, passion, and authenticity started to shine through. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and found a community of supporters who believed in second chances and hard work. And most importantly, I found peace in my own company. The freedom to create without fear, without manipulation, was priceless. This journey taught me that sometimes you have to lose everything to find who you really are, and that's the most valuable thing you can build. All right, here we are, the final chapter of this crazy story about a homeless boy who somehow built Louis Vuitton, got betrayed by the one person he trusted most, and came out on the other side. If there's one thing I want you to take from all this, it's this. Trust yourself first. Listen to your gut, protect your dreams, and don't let anyone, no matter how close, tear you down or make you doubt your worth. Betrayal hurts like hell, but it's not the end of your story. It's a painful chapter, yeah, but it can also be a catalyst for growth and strength you never knew you had. Love isn't supposed to hurt you or make you question who you are. If it does, it's time to reconsider what that love really means. And finally, never forget where you started. Whether you came from nothing or somewhere comfortable, remember the hunger, the fire, the dreams that pushed you forward. That's your power. Amy was a lesson, a harsh one, but she didn't break me. I chose to build instead of burn. And you can too. So, if you're in a toxic relationship, doubting yourself, or facing betrayal, take a deep breath, stand tall, and know that your story isn't over. The best chapters are still ahead. Thanks for reading. If you're dealing with something similar, I'm here to listen. A guy who went from homeless kid to building a legacy, one stitch at a time.